Aquí te canta Luis Anthony.
Did you want to add something, Governor?
Yes, Senator, just to make my point very clear on the previous question. There's no doubt that congressional action is needed. Not to kick the can. If we want to kick the can a little bit, a few months, maybe a year, but to solve the problem, this is very simple. The ball is right now in Congress court. What we are asking is to throw the ball to our court. I want to solve the issue. We began, we need to finish that job. Right now, ball is in your court. Please, pass it to our. We need to do the job. It's our problem. We need the tools to do our job.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Governor Padilla, your comments, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman Koski, for your leadership and for holding this hearing. I appreciate our collaboration and look forward to a bipartisan solution to this crisis, working with Ranking Member Cantwell, member of the committee, Congress, the Treasury, and the Resident Commissioner of Puerto Rico. We are facing a crisis in Puerto Rico, a crisis decades in the making. We didn't create it, but we need to solve it. To address it, my administration has reduced expenses by 20% and increased revenues by other 20% in the last 3 years. Despite these efforts, by the end of this year, Puerto Rico may have to choose between paying its creditors and providing essential services to the island's 3.5 million American citizens. Police and fire protection, healthcare and social services are all in jeopardy. Puerto Rico is running out of cash and will soon exhaust the emergency measures we are using to keep the government operating. When faced with the prospect of either making payments on debt obligation or paying for essential services, Puerto Rico will have no choice but to default. With no bankruptcy options, creditors will sue, dragging us into complex and costly legal battles that will only aggravate the crisis. I urge you to read Dr. Ann Krieger's report, which reinforces this reality. Her debt sustainability study, the first ever done by any administration in Puerto Rico, describes a vicious cycle of economic recession, public borrowing, and fiscal adjustment that began to accelerate in 2005 following congressional repeal of Section 936 of the Internal Revenue Code and the resulting downturn into our manufacturing base. From 2005 to 2012, Puerto Ricans shouldered the burden of a new sales tax, employees layoffs, thousands, a surtax on real property, and other expenditures and revenue measures, while our debt burden near double from 39 billion to more than 70 billion. Upon taking office in 2013, I began to implement additional fiscal adjustment measures, reduced expenditures and frozen collective bargaining agreements, reform our largest pension fund from defined benefits to defined contribution, and increase revenues. Most notably, throughout attrition, we now have 66 public employees per 1,000 persons, lower than the US average of 68, and have begun to reduce our debt, a historic first. Other action my administration has taken are detailed in my written testimony. However, independent experts tell us, and we agree, that even if we implement all of the measures in my working group's fiscal and economic growth plan, large financing gaps and unfunded pension obligation will persist. We have never asked Congress for a bailout, and we are not seeking one today. We ask for access to a legal framework to restructure our liabilities. We ask for fair treatment in Medicare and Medicaid funding, for reforms that stimulate labor force participation and job creation, such as the Earned Income Tax Credit. We ask for an exemption of Jones Acts like that of the United States Virgin Islands, our closest neighbors. Treasury's recommendations address many of my administration's requests and are essential steps forward. Chairwoman, member of this committee, inaction is not an option. By moving forward on these measures now, you can help prevent the situation from getting worse. Your action will have a dramatic impact on the people of Puerto Rico and will have little or no effect on the serious national budget issues confronting Congress. Waiting will only allow the situation to grow worse, more expensive, and difficult for you to address down the road. Give us the tools, and we will finish the job. Thank you for your time and attention.
There have been a number of financial reports. You mentioned one, and several of you also mentioned the Krieger report. There's also the Conway-McKenzie report to the working group report, which I think is helpful. But there is concern, clearly, about the verifiability of Puerto Rico's financial data, and this goes back to the fact that we haven't seen a comprehensive independent audit since July of 2013. And I know that this was an issue that was raised before the Finance Committee as well. Can you tell the committee this morning whether or not there are plans to complete independent audits of the Government Development Bank for fiscal years 2014 and 15, and then, of course, going into the future? Where is the status of that?
Thank you, Chairwoman. It's a historical problem in Puerto Rico. We inherited a mess there too, and it was part of the different governments in the past to hide information to the market so they were able to have more access to the market. We have been dealing with that. Now we are just one audited financial statement behind that should be released in next weeks or months.
Excuse me, would that be 14 or 15?
It will be 14 and then 15, but when I was sworn in, the delay was huge. We have been able to go for and being now a little bit more accurate. Conway-McKenzie and Krieger report are part of that effort of the Commonwealth and my administration to bring you and to the world the right numbers about Puerto Rico through commission independent experts to evaluate Puerto Rico numbers. So on the audited financial statement is a historical problem that we are just now putting up to date, but to supplement that lack of information, that's why we commissioned the same company that did the research in Detroit, that is Conway-McKenzie, and best one in the world from the IMF is the Krieger report.
But what you're telling the committee is we should anticipate the 2014 independent audit sometime within the next several weeks.
Weeks or month, yes. I will tell you why. As you know, it's an independent contractor that is requesting everyday information. So to put a burden on them to be faster, I need to ask them to address the issue in a more responsible way so you will have the better numbers. But yes, we are putting a lot of pressure on them to accelerate that process.
I think you understand the need and, of course, the concern for very clear numbers. Let me ask you, Mr. Weiss, given your close interaction with the Puerto Rico government over the last year, are you comfortable with the financial data that is available, and has the Treasury Department considered sending a team from Treasury to help them produce some of these auditable financial statements?
Well, thank you for posing the question, Chairman Rakowski. An essential part of the plan that we are proposing, not covered in my oral testimony but contained in the written proposal, is that it is absolutely the case that Puerto Rico needs to make an investment in its financial reporting systems and cannot be in a position where audited financials are not released on a timely and transparent basis to all stakeholders.
Governor, in May 2014, you signed legislation that required the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority, PREPA, to ensure that the electricity from fossil fuels be generated more efficiently. Have efficiency goals been met as a result of this legislation that you signed?
Let me give you just a little of background. When I was sworn in, we produced like 67% of our energy from oil. Now it's 54, as Senator Sanders pointed out. When I was sworn in, energy was at 31 cents per kilowatt hour. Now it's 19. It's cheaper than in Hawaii or in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Puerto Rico is the offshore jurisdiction with cheaper energy in the United States. Still high, 19 cents. Yes, we are trying to add more renewables. We already signed for building of 600 megawatts of a peak demand of 3,200 megawatts on renewable. But we need to finish the restructure of PREPA that we already began or we're about to end successfully to allow trust of the financial world to invest. But those are the right facts. Puerto Rico 3 years ago was at 31 cents per kilowatt, is now at 19, and that's the reality of Puerto Rico.
I want to see if for a moment I can take a bit of a longer view with respect to this challenge, and this really goes back to the days when I was the chair of this committee and Senator Murkowski was ranking minority member. And let me direct this question, if I might, to you, Mr. Marswatch, because to me, the central question, if you're going to keep this from happening again, you have to resolve this issue of status. That, to me, is just basic, and I see you're nodding your head yes. So let's kind of walk through a little bit of this. In November of 2012, the Puerto Rican government held a local referendum on Puerto Rico's political future. And we noted back, again, when I was chair, in August of 2013, on that vote, there was no disputing that a majority of the voters in Puerto Rico, 54%, clearly expressed their opposition to continuing the current territorial status. So at that hearing, I expressed my concern that the lack of resolution of Puerto Rico's status not only distracts from addressing these huge challenges, it contributes to them. As the President's Task Force on Puerto Rico's status found, I'll quote here, identifying the most effective means of assisting the Puerto Rican economy depends on resolving the ultimate question, which they called status. So it is still clear that for Puerto Rico to get on top of these issues and really to achieve the full potential that all concerned are interested in, the issues gotta be resolved. Puerto Rico must either exercise full self-government as a sovereign nation or achieve equality among the states of the Union. So the Congress's response to the 2012 referendum, Congress responded to it by authorizing and allocating the funds for the first federally sponsored status vote in Puerto Rico's history. So I'm not sure that that's been fully appreciated, but the enactment of this law is, again, one of the important steps to get this resolved. And it's my hope that the government of Puerto Rico will use this funding to conduct a federally sponsored vote. The rejection of the current territory status by the voters of Puerto Rico leaves the Puerto Rico challenge with only two options: statehood under U.S. sovereignty or some form of separate national sovereignty. Once Puerto Rico does hold the vote, the Congress ought to respond in an appropriate fashion to implement the democratic desire of the U.S. citizens of Puerto Rico. So if you might, Mr. Marswatch, tell the committee a bit about how you see this question of political status, in effect, in suspended animation, has harmed the economy of Puerto Rico.
Certainly, it has harmed the economy of Puerto Rico.